poppin', my bad batches and effective defectives? It's me, MT, and welcome back to the Heavy Spoiler Show, y'all. Bad Batch Season 3 is finally here, and we have got to break these first 3 episodes down because it actually expounds on some pretty major stuff for the Star Wars universe. So spoilers ahead for episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Bad Batch Season 3 because we got to get into it, gang. Because much like we learned in Disney's Lilo and Stitch, Omega means family. Or something like that. And also feel free to give this video a thumbs up if you guys like what we do here. It's a really dope way to help out the channel. Alright, so episodes 1 and 3 are directly connected with one another, so I'm going to tackle those together first and then hit episode 2 later. And I'm so freaking amped to talk about these episodes because they are expounding on a super huge Star Wars narrative that I've been trying to explain to people about for the longest time. The true purpose of Emperor Palpatine's secretive Project Necromancer, first name dropped by Imperial Captain Pelion in The Mandalorian Chapter 23, The Spies. Project Necromancer was a secret initiative that the scattered remnants of the Empire were undertaking on behalf of the dead Emperor Palpatine. An initiative apparently headed by Commandant Brendol Hux, the father of future First Order General Armitage Hux, the biggest Kylo Ren hater in the universe. That dude was like, I don't want to win. I just want Kylo Ren to lose. And I was like, damn, this is the biggest hater I've ever seen on the big screen. In that episode, Hux accuses Moff Gideon of secretly trying to work with clone Dr. Pen Pershing on a secret side project inspired by Hux's work on Project Necromancer. But Moff Gideon was like, me? Me? Obsessed with cloning science? Bitch, you're tripping. It's not like I ran experiments on the blood of a magic green baby that I kidnapped in order to steal that magic baby's midichlorians so I can make an army of Force-sensitive Gideon clones so that I can rebuild the Empire in my image or something. That would be wrong. That would be wrong. I don't do wrong things. But of course, that is exactly what Moff Gideon was doing because he is what most psychologists would call a lion-ass hoe. Gideon was trying to replicate Hux's work on Project Necromancer, and I believe that these first few episodes of Bad Batch Season 3 were meant to give us a look into the painstaking midichlorian transfer process, a process that I believe Palpatine was trying to perfect in order to create a newly cloned body for himself in the event that one of his disgruntled employees threw him down a reactor shaft or something. Because that's pretty much what necromancy is all about, using the spirits of the dead in order to perform dark, unnatural magic. But in this case, Palpatine was using his own unique form of necromancy, using the blood of slain and soon-to-be slain Force sensitives throughout the galaxy. Force sensitives like the ones that Obi-Wan Kenobi ran across when he found that massive room of Jedi stored in amber, and Force sensitives like Grogu and our girl, Omega, who was officially revealed to also have special Jedi magic blood, a revelation that many Star Wars fans had long expected to be true, especially due to Omega's oddly emotionally perceptive nature, her love for all things living, her ability to connect with animals, and her proficiency with her energy bow. Like pretty much since her first appearance, Lucasfilm has been dropping hints at Omega's Force sensitivity through the challenges that she faces on her adventures with her Clone Force 99 bros. After discovering that Omega's creation was the result of a successful transfer of midichlorians from an unknown specimen to Omega through these long and methodical extraction and experimentations of clone blood, Chief Scientist Royce Hemlock stops his soldiers from blowing Omega out of the sky during her and Crosshair's escape at the end of episode 3. Because Dr. Jeremy Renner's primary objective with this cloning facility on Mount Tantus on planet Wayland was to find a way to transfer the midichlorians from a specific sample to another clone specimen without losing any midichlorians in the transfer, with midichlorians, of course, being what the term M-count refers to whenever it is said in these episodes and in the Star Wars universe in general. If you don't already know, every living thing in the Star Wars galaxy has little microscopic midichlorians living inside of them, and these tiny guys are what connect living beings to the Force. Without midichlorians, you cannot connect to the Force. That's just how it works. Regardless of whether or not you like midichlorians, that's just how George Lucas set things up. Normal people have very little midichlorians, and because of that, they're less sensitive to the Force. So most of these very unblessed, unlucky people will go their entire lives without ever trying to reach out to the Force with their low amounts of midichlorians, because it takes a lot of concentrated effort. Sabine had to work her ass off in both Star Wars Rebels and the Ahsoka series before she was finally able to get her low midichlorian count to tap into the Force. However, if you've got a super high midichlorian count, like, Anakin or Rey or Grogu, tapping into the Force comes a lot easier and even second nature. I mean, hell, Anakin was so Force sensitive that he got involuntary premonitions from the future in his dreams. Dude could just connect to the cosmic Force like that. Like, holy shit, I wish I could do that. This all being said, testing the transfer of midichlorians into clones is basically what these rotating blood analyzing machines were doing. With the blood of the original high midichlorian specimen on the top, Nala Se and Emery were tasked with inserting the blood of clone troopers inside of this circle of vials on the bottom, and analyzing that clone trooper blood in comparison to that high midichlorian count blood sample on top. As soon as Nala Se realized that Omega's blood was to be tested as well, she made sure that it never was, showing that Nala Se always knew that Omega was a Force-sensitive child, which is why Nala Se is ultimately detained by a suspicious Royce Hemlock at the end of episode 3. But no, seriously, why do they make this person look so much like Jeremy Renner? Like, are they planning on casting Jeremy Renner for the role of Royce Hemlock in the future? Because this just looks like Jeremy Renner. But anyways, when the blood machine beeps and informs Emery of Omega's special magic blood, I love how you can hear the subtle sound of the male choir from Emperor Palpatine's theme music in the background, much like you can hear Palpatine's theme when he makes his surprise visit to the planet Wayland. This musical cue makes me believe that Omega was the result of a successful transfer of Emperor Palpatine's midichlorian count to a modified Jango Fett clone, which is the exact science Palpatine would use to both resurrect himself and create the Force-wielding powerhouse of a genetic abomination that would become known as Supreme Leader Snoke. In The Rise of Skywalker, everyone's favorite Star Wars movie, we learn that We learned that Supreme Leader Snoke was a Strandcast clone, the result of Palpatine mixing the genetic material and midichlorians of multiple specimens into a powerful cloned body. Dr. Penn Pershing actually has a whole presentation on Strandcast clones during a flashback in the Mandalorian series. Palpatine would then use his Strandcast clone puppet Snoke to build a new First Order army, while Palpatine hid in the shadows in his science laboratory trying to use dark science to build him a less deformed cloned body. Because although Project Necromancer succeeded in figuring out how to transfer Palpatine's midichlorians into a clone, this dark science was not without a physical price. And we can see that through both Snoke and Palpatine's weak and deformed appearances in the sequel trilogy. Though their new clone bodies were pumped full of midichlorians, the toll all those midichlorians took on their bodies gave them a physically weak disposition. So needless to say, the unseen figure in the tube that Palpatine and Hemlock look over in the secret Sith science room with Sith writing on the ground is very likely one of these Palpatine clones, which is why Palpatine notes that there was nothing more important to the future of the Empire than Hemlock's cloning work, because that's exactly how Palpatine sees himself. No one is more fit to rule the Empire than him, which is exactly why the Imperial Shadow Council was so reliant on Project Necromancer in The Mandalorian, because they craved the return of Palpatine's leadership. Seeing the potential of Palpatine's midichlorian contingency plan, Moff Gideon stole Palpatine's plans for Project Necromancer and tried to use it for himself to make an army of Force-sensitive Gideon clones using Grogu's blood as his midichlorian source. But luckily, Mando and the gang destroyed all those Gideon clones in the season 3 finale. Or did they? Who knows? But anyways, Project Necromancer aside, episode 1 and 3 of this new season were very much all about the differences between the light side and the dark side of the Force, if you really think about it. Specifically, the concepts of compassion versus selfishness, with these episodes continuing the series trend of showing us just how much Omega's sensitivity to the Force has given her massive massive levels of empathy and hope for all living things, even as she is entrapped within an environment that was directly opposed to sentiment and love. I mean, the episode opens with Hemlock abandoning those troopers in that crashed Imperial shuttle to die without even attempting to save them. A great way to show just how unfeeling Palpatine's Imperial fleet has evolved to become. During Omega's 169-day stay at the Mount Tantus cloning facility, as indicated by those tallies that she's left on her windowsill, Omega's empathy led her to forging a connection with a wild dog-like animal that Omega would call Betcha. Omega's compassion for the wild Betcha is purposely juxtaposed with her compassion for Crosshair, as both Betcha and Crosshair were two caged and soon-to-be discarded war dogs for the Empire. Despite everything that Crosshair did to Omega and her brothers throughout the series, Omega still loved him all the same. And no matter how much Crosshair growled at her to stay away from him, Omega kept coming back to give Crosshair a sense of companionship and love, just like she did with Betcha. Like, this very much reminds me of the very first episode of Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, where we meet up with the baby Ahsoka, who pretty much immediately forges a connection with a wild tiger that was initially intent on eating her. But because baby Ahsoka exuded love and not fear, that tiger realized that she was connected to the Force and brought her back safely to her family. In a similar vein, I feel like Omega's deep connection to the Force allows her to connect to wild animals like this as well. Omega sticks by even the most difficult of people and animals because she sees the best in those beings, and I really do believe that her strong Force affinity has greatly contributed to this character trait that she possesses, because I believe that her levels of hope were purposely made to mirror that of both Luke and Rey Skywalker, because both Luke and Rey never gave up hope in the goodness of seemingly lost causes like Darth Vader and Kylo Ren. Omega can see even the tiniest bit of light shining within even the darkest and intimidating of human beings and animals alike, and it is that compassion that proves to be her strength time and time again, as her hopeful actions inspired both Betcha and Crosshair to fight for their freedom by the end of episode 3. It was also quite interesting to see Omega's compassionate nature rub off on Emery enough for Emery to be willing to break the rules so that she could return Omega's Hay recreation of her stuffed Tuca doll Lula. And it kind of makes you wonder whether or not Emery is finally going to make a similar turn to the good guy side like Crosshair did. But anyways, let's touch on episode 2, where it starts with Hunter and Wrecker of Clone Force 99 reuniting with an old client, Roland Durand, a Deveronian that we met in season 1 episode 13. Back when he had 2 full horns on his head. During that episode, Durand was held captive and almost killed by the Pike Syndicate if it wasn't for the intervention of Omega and Clone Force 99, combined with the threat of Roland's mother, Issa Durand, who we finally meet sitting on her throne as matriarch of the Durand family syndicate in this episode. And this lady is just as rude as you would expect any crime syndicate leader to be, with Issa Durand pulling the classic drop my enemies by opening a trap door under their feet move, perfected by evil masterminds like Jabba the Hutt in Return of the Jedi and Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. But anyways, after they head to the ship, Hunter looks over the coordinates that Roland gives him to the potential location to Hemlock's laboratory. And when he does, he reflects on the teammates that he's lost in the past as he glances over at Tech's glasses and Omega's stuffed animal. When Hunter and Wrecker finally make their way to the planet at those coordinates, they find a group of young male clones who survived the destruction of Hemlock's old science base on the planet. A science installation that was not only taking the blood samples of clones like they were doing at Mount Tantus, but were also experimenting on the creation of a giant mutant Sarlacc that Hunter, Wrecker, and the boys would be forced to fight by the end of the episode. Very much meant to directly mirror Boba Fett's iconic struggle with the Sarlacc pit in both Return of the Jedi and the Boba Fett series. With Boba Fett, of course, taking vengeance on his Sarlacc pit with a bomb from his ship, much like the group of Fett clones did in this episode. Like, this abandoned facility feels like a piece of what Dr. Hemlock was alluding to during his conversation with Emperor Palpatine in episode 3, when he mentioned how the exotic matter facilities have expanded, providing alteration and testing of much larger assets. Like, Palpatine was up to some really weird shit with wildlife, man, with one of the most striking examples in recent memory being his cloning experiments with the heavily armored, energy-consuming Zillo Beast. Introduced in season 2, Episode 18 of the Clone Wars series, the Zillo Beast caught Palpatine's attention after the Republic army ran across the creature on the planet Malastare, leading the creature to eventually run amok around the planet Coruscant. But after the Zillo Beast was secured by the Republic army, Palpatine immediately ordered genetic experiments be done on the massive creature. And the Bad Batch would run into one of the products of the Emperor's Zillo Beast experiments in Season 2, Episode 11, for the Empire would secure that cloned Zillo Beast once more, with Palpatine teasing a great need for Jeremy Renner's grand designs for these exotic matter facilities, combined with the fact that we know Palpatine is deeply invested in cloning science for the express purpose of building a new and stronger host body for himself so he can avoid death. I think there's a strong possibility here that Palpatine might have actually considered transferring his consciousness inside of a non-human subject, like a Zillo Beast, or even this freaky Sarlacc pit thing. Or alternatively, at the very least, I can totally see Palpatine wanting to extract the best genetic qualities from these non-human subjects in order to create a strand cast clone of himself with all of these animals' cool-ass abilities. Like, it'd be weird as hell, but pretty much anything is on the table when you're a mad scientist. But anyways, I truly love how this episode continues the Bad Batch theme of soldiers showing compassion towards other soldiers who were done dirty by the Empire, as it shows that Clone Force 99 aren't actually the defective ones. It's all the stormtroopers and clone troopers who treat others and one another like dirt and only look out for themselves that are truly defective. By saving the boys at the end of the episode and promising them safe refuge, Clone Force 99 very much echoes Omega's compassionate, no man left behind mentality that is very much indicative of the selfless light side of the Force. With them possibly having secured the coordinates to Hemlock's Mount Tantus base, the episode ends with a shot of Lula the Tuca Bunny as Hunter remains hopeful to see his daughter-like older sister again. Like, it's so weird to think about how Omega is older than all of her brothers. But it's true. Cloning is some weird-ass shit, man. But anyways, that is it for this breakdown of episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Bad Batch. I am so excited to watch the rest of these episodes because Omega is slowly growing to become my favorite Star Wars character. Like, I freaking love this girl, man. But anyways, let us know what you guys thought of these episodes in the comment section down below. But anyways, like always, you can follow me at Mastertainment on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or wherever I am on the internet. But most importantly, you can follow Heavy Spoilers here on YouTube. And when you do, make sure you hit that bell so that you can get notifications every time we upload a video. And hey, maybe even consider becoming a member. It's only $1 a month, and it gives you access to all of our content earlier than everybody else. And it's a great way to support the channel. So consider becoming a member today. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are amazing, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.